Morning, Chan. Happy Monday to you. You just finished homework 7 this morning? Nice. Good morning, Abhinav. How are you today? I hope everybody had a good weekend. Morning, Hank. You've been working on the literature review. Sweet. Because you're doing some traction control, right? If I remember correctly. That'll be cool. Yeah. Hey, good morning, Hash Brown Swag. Happy Monday morning to you guys. How are your car modifications going, Hank? Who knows what this music is from? Hank says, taking a break for the next week or so while I'm still at school. Yeah, troubleshooting and going back for the final tune when I get back. Yeah. Chin, I haven't put up those proposal grades yet. I'm still going through those. Hey Jenna, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Mike. Good to see you. Did you hear that SUNY took away our spring break? I had heard rumors. Is it official? SUNY spring break. Good morning, Chimney Stacks. Oh, you're right. COVID test for everybody? What? Okay. But I also heard that they're gonna start the spring semester later, so you get like a longer winter break. Oh yeah, so they're gonna push back the spring semester start date until February 1st. Yeah, I know. That's a bummer. Man. It's a bummer, because it's good to get that. It's good to get a break. Yeah. Mike says, I'm not a fan of that. Brake halfway through is much preferred. Agreed. Agreed. Or end early when the weather's nice. Oh, Renee is here. Renee D. Estes is my mom. Everybody say hi to my mom. She says it just gets better and better. I know. It really does, doesn't it? It just one bummer after the next as far as COVID goes here. My mom lives in Arizona, which is now a purple state, as we all know. Everybody says hello. Thanks, you guys. That's fun. Okay. Let's see here. Everybody's saying hi. Hey, whatever, we persevere, do we not? Says Mama Estes. That's right. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And things will get better. Things will get back to normal. Some approximation of normal. Okay. Everybody, we're going to do like a case study today. So we started talking about the understeer gradient and how there's different classifications of cars based on the understeer gradient. So, I mean, I'll just make a little note up here. A vehicle can be understeer, oversteer, or neutral steer. And passenger cars, actually almost every single car, even a high performance car, is going to be at least somewhat understeer. We came up with a definition of the understeer gradient. If you had to say, like, what does this mean in the simplest terms? Let's make a little picture. Let's say you're cornering a circular path, so it's got a constant radius. And in vehicle dynamics, the technical name for this path is a skid pad. We use it for all sorts of handling testing for vehicles. But let's say you're turning right and your velocity is tangent to this circle. Well, okay, if you're in an understeer car and if you keep going around this circle but you slowly increase your speed, in an understeer car, you're going to notice that you have to increase your steering angle as well. So you're going to have to keep turning harder and harder to the right to stay on this radius. For an oversteer car, it's the opposite. As you increase your speed turning right, you're going to have to actually start decreasing your steering. And it can even get so extreme that you're counter steering eventually, which is what you see in drifting, right? Somebody might be taking a right turn, but their wheels are pointed to the left. The special thing about a neutral steer car is you can ride on this radius at any speed and your steer angle is not going to change. It's just going to be like your steering wheel is just fixed. And you can keep increasing speed and you're going to have to make minimal steering adjustments. So that's just like a basic understeer, oversteer, like what does it mean to be, but these have other implications on a vehicle's handling, and I want to unpack these this week. But so would FF be considered an understeer setup and FR be oversteer and MR neutral? I'm really embarrassed to say I don't know what that means. You're gonna have to tell me what FF, FR, and MR means. MR is oversteery. Oh, FF front engine front drive, FR front engine rear drive, MR mid engine rear drive. Okay, let's think about this. Actually, we can unpack this as we go, because the understeer gradient depends on your front weight distribution for sure. Actually, let's write the expression for the understeer gradient right here, if I can remember what the heck it is. So it's the mass of your car divided by L, which is your wheelbase, distance between front and rear axles, times your rear cornering stiffness times the distance from the rear axle to the CG, minus your front cornering stiffness times the distance from the front axle to the CG, divided by the product of your front and rear cornering stiffness. So this, if you're understeer, your understeer gradient's going to be larger than 0. If you're oversteer, it's going to be less than 0. And if you're neutral steer, theoretically, it's going to be 0. Exactly. So when we're talking about front engine, mid engine, rear engine, if your engine's at the front, we can just look at the M4 right here. They show like a little silhouette of the engine up here. Okay, so front engine on the M4. Now, the engine's heavy, so a lot of your weight is toward the front. The distance from the CG to the front axle is LF. So if you have a front engine, this term is going to be smaller. So if I want my understeer gradient to be, if for an understeer car, the understeer gradient is positive. So if I make this number smaller, then this will make the car more understeer, because I'm subtracting less. Now, there's a competing effect here. So it can be a little tricky, because you're also subtracting your front cornering stiffness. When you shift your weight to the front of your car, you put more normal load on the front tires, and the cornering stiffness goes up at your front tires. And that makes the car more oversteer, actually. So it's hard to say just based on weight distribution, because it depends a lot on the tires too. But I would say generally front engine front drive is more understeer. Front engine rear drive is more probably neutral. Yeah, mid-engine rear drive is neutral, maybe pushing oversteer a little bit. Okay, so this road and track performance report is pretty cool, because they have a lot of stuff, a lot of information. And the thing that we're going to focus on, we'll jump all over this sheet, but this is the result of the skid pad test. They have a 300-foot skid pad. That's talking about the diameter. And the M4 as it's traveling one direction or another, it can hold 1.05 Gs before it starts to skid out. Let's see here. If you look down here, they have a little tiny section, and they say, I felt a little bit of understeer. That means when they were going around this skid pad with increasing speed, going up towards the limit, they found they had to turn more and more into the turn to stay on the radius. But they say mild, and I don't know, that doesn't really help. In terms of numbers, that doesn't really help us that much. But we're going to make some assumptions. We'll try to dial in exactly what the understeer gradient might be. Okay, let's look at a couple more things. We have the wheelbase here. So 110 inches from axle to axle. And they also tell us the front rear weight distribution. And we usually just deal with front in this class. So 52.6% of the weight is on the front tires. So a lot of that weight being towards the front is coming from that front engine configuration. More weight towards the front. And here's our total weight. Actually, let's jump over to MATLAB, because I want to start putting in some of these vehicle specifications in here. Making a little MATLAB file for the M4. Okay, let's start with just some basic bookkeeping here. The weight is, just from the sheet, it's 3,500 pounds, almost 3,600. And I want to do everything in metric today, so we're going to convert this to newtons. So I put a little conversion up here. If you multiply that by 4.44, that's going to be in newtons. Let's get the mass. So you have to divide by gravitational acceleration. Let's just define G. Meters per segundos squared. This is the mass in kilograms. Okay. Now, the wheelbase, the distance from axle to axle was... Where did it go? 110 inches, right? Where are you? Yeah. 110.7 inches. Let's convert that to feet. So I'm going to divide by 12. And then I want to get this in meters. So I have a little conversion at the top. So if I have the distance in feet, if you multiply that by 0.3048, that'll put it in meters. So we got the wheelbase in meters. Now, the front weight percentage, 52.6%. Is this like the homework, says Phil? Probably has some similarities. Okay. 0.526. All right. So the distance from the CG to the rear axle, that's going to be this wheelbase times that front weight ratio. And then the distance from the CG to the front axle, LF, that's just going to be the wheelbase minus LR. Okay. We got this. Maybe we'll run this. M4 specs 11.9. Mass, that's in kilograms. LF, LR. Okay, good. Let's go back to our spec sheet. Okay, so I have some questions that I want to answer to like guide our analysis a little bit. And we'll probably jump back and forth to the sheet. So the first thing I want to answer is what is or what was the velocity of the M4 on the skid pad road holding test when it started to skid out. So the way we're going to break this down, first we know the lateral acceleration, the steady state lateral acceleration we reached was 1.05 G's before the tires started to give out. So if we get that in meters per second squared, there's 9.81 meters per second squared per G. So this is 10.3 meters per second squared. All right. Now we have a basic formula that relates the lateral acceleration to the velocity, which is this: v squared divided by the radius of the circle we're going around. So we know the radius. The skid pad's 150 feet, or wait, it's 300 feet in diameter, so it's 150 feet radius. And we know this lateral acceleration, so v is going to be the square root of our radius times this steady state lateral acceleration. So I want to pop back over to MATLAB, run these numbers. Okay, so we have the road holding skid pad test, and let's say like AY star is 1.05 G's times 9.81. So we got this in meters per second squared. And then the radius of the skid pad is 150 feet, but I want to get this in meters, so I got to multiply this by 0.3. Okay, now we have our velocity before the M4 started to skid out, which is the square root of the radius times that steady state lateral acceleration. Here we go. Let's run this again. 21.7 meters per second. And if we convert that to miles per hour, I think it's times 2.2. Roughly. So it's around 47, 48 miles per hour when it can't hold on this radius anymore. Okay, let's go back here. So, okay, we're kind of slowly dissecting what must have happened with this test on the M4. So we're getting like some extra information, which I think is fun. That's why I kind of called it hacking their spec sheet. Getting more information than they actually give us. Okay. Great. Now, the yaw rate is the rotation of the CG relative to the fixed axis. So you can think of it this way. When the car completes one revolution, it rotated, one circuit of this skid pad, it will have rotated 360 degrees. So the yaw rate is 360 degrees per its lap time. Right? Okay. So let's break this down kind of slow. So let's see, the lap time. Okay, so 2 pi radians. It does 2 pi radians of rotation over amount of time, which is the lap time, which is wait, how fast does it get around this? 2 pi r is the circumference divided by the velocity, right? So this becomes v over r. .7 meters per second divided by the radius. What was that in meters? 45.72 meters. Let's crunch the numbers. Okay, the yaw rate, R, is V divided by R. And this will be in radians per second. So 0.47 radians per second. And then if I take this and multiply it by 180 divided by pi, that's how many degrees per second it's rotating. So let's record these things. 0.47 radians per second, or 27.2 degrees per second. That's how quickly it was rotating on the skid pad before it gave out. Okay. Now let's keep digging deeper. How much lateral force do we need to achieve the listed lateral acceleration? And then we're going to break this down to how much the front tires were making, how much the rear tires were making. So, all right. We have this basic force balance. The mass of the car times the lateral acceleration, so the acceleration that's holding it into the skid pad. The forces are coming from the lateral tire force at the front and the lateral tire force at the rear. This is assuming a small steer angle as well, because there would be a cosine delta term in front of here, but I'm assuming that's a relatively small steer angle. Actually, I think I plan on calculating what the steer angle exactly was. So we'll see how valid it is that it's small. Okay, so the combination of forces, we can just take the mass of the car times that lateral acceleration, and we're going to get that right here. So we'll say Fy is going to be the mass times that lateral acceleration. Let's get that. So 16,786 newtons of force. Before it starts to slip. Now, what I want to do next, how much of this was made by the front tires and how much of this was made by the rear tires? Now, the key here is that if you, let's see, let's draw like a little schematic of the bicycle model. I'm turning to the right. And I have my CG somewhere over here. I have the rear lateral force. I have the front lateral force. And these both create a moment about the CG. But this moment needs to balance. The rear's creating a moment this way, the front's creating a moment that way. If they don't balance, the car is spinning out. But we know that the car was moving at steady state. It wasn't skidding out at this point. The moments were balanced. So we're going to have the condition that the moment from the front, which is FYF times LF, is equal to FYR times LR. So if we solve for FYF from this expression, I get a ratio that describes the front to rear lateral force. So what I can do now is I can go back up to this expression and substitute in for FYF. So I'll have LR over LF plus 1 FYR is equal to 16,786 newtons. We'll get that. We're going to go back over to MATLAB, crunch these numbers. So we'll get the rear lateral force first. It's going to be that total lateral force divided by LR divided by LF, and we got those lengths up above, plus 1. And then because FYF and FYR have to add up to the total, we can make this subtraction. Hey, UB Math Prof. Welcome. Good to see you. Is that Kirby or something? Okay. Let's run this. FYR, FYF. Okay, so remember we had like 16,000 newtons of total lateral force to hold us into this corner, and the majority of it is being produced at the front. What's wrong one? Okay, FYR 7,957 newtons. FYF 8,830 newtons. All right. Now, okay, so more is produced at the front. Now, this is more a conceptual question. I mean, the only way you know this is from the definition of understeer, oversteer, really. So which tires are going to be the first ones to start sliding out? Well, more often than not, for an understeer car, which the people who drove this car said it was mild understeer, the front tires go first. And the reason is that for an understeer car, the front slip angles, the front tire slip angles are going to be larger in magnitude than the rear tire slip angles. And assuming that the front and rear tires are similar, then the tire, there's a critical slip angle, which we know about, beyond which we start to lose lateral force. So if you have lateral force versus slip angle, it looks like this. So as slip angles increase in either direction, eventually you reach a point where the lateral force drops off. So understeer, the front slip angle is larger. It's going to reach that limit before the rear tires. So we're assuming that the front tires were the ones on the skid pad test that gave out. So that's like extra information that we're kind of gleaning from this using our road vehicle dynamics knowledge. Okay. I want to make some assumptions here. And this is related to understeer, oversteer. So I'm assuming that the front tires are going to give out first, right? Now, I'm going to assume that the front tires give out when alpha F is 6 degrees. The front slip angles are 6 degrees. And that's actually a decent assumption. Beyond 6 degrees of slip, you're probably going to start losing lateral force. This next assumption that I'm going to make is not as good of an assumption, but we're going to go with it. I'm going to say that the linear tire model is valid up to this limit. So what I mean is the linear tire model says the front lateral tire force is predicted by the negative of the cornering stiffness times the slip angle at the front. So it's just totally linear. More slip equals more force, always in the same proportion. But in real life, the lateral force is only linear, maybe up through like plus or minus 3 degrees of slip. And then it kind of starts to go into this transitional region where there's less slope, and then eventually it like reverses. So if you just use the linear tire model, like if you track this slope, it's going to create a gap between what the actual tire does and what you're supposing it does. So to summarize, the linear tire model over predicts tire force beyond like 3 degrees of slip or something like that. So if I'm saying that the lateral tire model is valid up to 6, it's just not as clean. Okay, but we're going to make that assumption. Now, oh, I just dropped my pen. Third assumption. When our front tires get to the limit, so once they get to 6 degrees, let's do magnitude here. So it could be good for a left or a right turn. I'm going to assume that the rear is going to be close behind, so 5 degrees. But this still means that the front tires would give out first, because once the front reaches 6, the rear is only at 5, and it has a little bit of distance to go before it reaches its own critical slip angle. And this is what I'm interpreting mild understeer as. They say the car has mild understeer. Well, I'll say it means this, that the rear tires are almost at the point of giving out when the front tires give out. Okay, now what these assumptions allow us to do is predict the cornering stiffnesses of the front and rear tires, which is very hard information to find. It's often proprietary, and it's very expensive to get that data. So we're going to get in trouble for calculating this right now. Okay, so I know this is a good estimate of that tire force. But I'm going to say this is approximately C alpha F times alpha F at like the critical slip angle. Which we're saying it's like 6 degrees. So C alpha F, let's say minus 6 degrees. And I have to express this in radians. Because I want my cornering stiffness in newtons per radian. I'll just keep everything in SI units. Okay. We have to jump over to MATLAB again to get this number. We're predicting the cornering stiffness. Okay, so I'll say CF is going to be FYF divided by... Actually, let's define our front and rear slip angles. I said this was 6 degrees, but I'm converting that to radians. I'm saying the rear is 5 degrees. Let's also get that in radians. See, okay. F. And then for the rear, it's going to be the same kind of thing. Alpha R. All right, let's see what this says. Okay. Ooh, this is going to be interesting because I want to point something out to you. All right, let's write these down. So the front cornering stiffness is 84,316 newtons per radian of slip. And C, the rear, is actually more. It's 91,177 newtons per radian of slip. So this is saying the rear tires for the M4 are a little more stiff. They're a little more grippy in a way. Like if you deflect them a little bit, it's going to provide more force than the front. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this. Because they tell us a little bit about the tires. They just tell us about the dimensions here. Where is it? Ah. So we got the tires, Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2, and then we have front and rear. And looking at that specification, what would you tell me is the main difference between these tires in terms of how they look? Because we now know how to read these things. Yes, the width. The rear tire, 30 millimeters wider. And based on this number here, the sidewall is a little bit shorter as well. So the rear tire's wider, thinner sidewall. I mean, maybe we can see in the picture here. I mean, you can't really tell from this. I mean, it's pretty close. But think about, we're just predicting that the cornering stiffness of the rear is more, meaning it creates more lateral force per deformation. I think it makes sense. Like when they were designing this car, they were like, okay, if I want a little bit of understeer given our weight distribution, maybe we have to pump up the width of the rear tire a little bit to increase that cornering stiffness. I do generally think a wider tire, given the same material, will give you a little bit more cornering stiffness. So that is interesting to see that we're predicting a little bit more cornering stiffness at the rear. And then when we look at the tire dimensions, it's kind of confirming what we're seeing, or what we're guessing at least. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. What did their test notes say? Okay, nothing. Okay, what did I want to do next? Okay, so we have a guess for the cornering stiffness. Phil says not necessarily. All right, what is the estimated understeer gradient given these? The second number is a percentage. What second number? Okay. Oh, the sidewall is thinner. No, you're right. Cause well, that's what I was saying, that the rear sidewall is thinner. But if I take let's make sure though. Oh, you calculate it? Oh, yeah, so it is thinner, yeah. But I see what you're saying. Just because it's 30 here, that doesn't mean it's a shorter sidewall, because this means 30% of the width. So even though, but because this is wider, so you have to be careful. 30% of 285, is that smaller than 35% of 255? I think it still is thinner like you calculated, but that's true. It's not necessarily. Right, I wanted to do the understeer gradient based on these cornering stiffnesses, which better be positive because it should be understeer, right? Times CR times LR minus CF times LF divided by CR times CF. So this will be the understeer gradient in radians per meter per second squared. Let's do it. Oh, I got an error. I think it's because I capitalized these, that R and that F. Ooh, so this is it's a positive number. A small positive number. C alpha R, C alpha F. Shouldn't that be LR? Oh! Let's go back in here. Oh boy. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Johnston. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. So now it's a more... This is bigger. Okay. 0.0017. Slightly positive. Positive understeer gradient. Radians per meter per second squared. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so understeer check. It's greater than 0. Let's see here. There was something else. Okay, let's get these last 2 items and then we'll call it a day because I know we're running low on time. Because I want to also predict what was the side slip angle of the vehicle during the skid pad test? Like, was it nose in to the skid pad? Was it nose out? And what actually was the steer angle? So, aren't nearly all cars understeer under skid pad test conditions? Yes. Yeah, I would say SCP alpha. Yeah, exactly. Unless you like really slam the gas, but it's under steady state conditions, I would say yes. Like any production car is going to be understeer. Even like a supercar, they're going to make it understeer because it's stable. But when they do these skid pad tests and they mention understeer and whatever, they might find that it's just like very understeer compared to others. So I think saying mild understeer is like a compliment to the car. We have this formula for the side slip angle. And we derived this formula when we talked about the geometry of the bicycle model during cornering. Okay. Let's get this. So we're assuming that, okay, if I'm making a right turn, I should have negative slip angles. So let's say this is minus 5 degrees by the time the front tires had given out. But let's convert this to radians. We have to be careful with that. For this formula, everything should be in radians. I need my yaw rate R. I have to jump around and get these. R, LR. So this is 0.47 radians per second. LR was 1.479 meters. And the velocity in meters per second was 21.7. Let's run the numbers. Alpha R plus R times LR divided by V. And I should make these negative up here. This should be negative. .1196 radians. What is this in degrees? Times 180 divided by pi. 6.8 degrees of side slip, and it's positive. So is that nose in or nose out for a right-hand turn? Let's think this through. Or 6.85 degrees. And if I'm making a right turn, let's say my nose is pointed out. That's like the body frame. And here's my velocity vector. The side slip is measured. Why wasn't alpha R negative in the code? I think I was doing... Well, I just went back and changed it. I think I was switching around signs in my head, but I was switching everything so that the final sign came out consistent. But it should have been negative in my code. This would be a negative side slip angle here. No, this is positive. This is positive. Because we're going clockwise. Okay. So the vehicle was nose out of the corner by the time we were skidding out. And why don't we do this steer angle as well? Because that's pretty quick. We have another formula for the steer angle based on the geometry here. Over V. So we can take this side slip angle from up there, positive 0.1196 radians. Alpha F is going to be minus 6 degrees. We'll convert it to radians. We'll do this yaw rate. Let's just do it all in MATLAB to speed it up, though. Okay, our steer angle, delta. It's going to be beta, our side slip. So plus R times our yaw rate times LF divided by my velocity. And then minus alpha F. Yeah, and I fixed these angles up here. I think this works. So this is just negative for right turn. Okay, let's get this steer angle. Delta. Not very much at all. Times 180 divided by pi. 2.52 degrees of steer at the front tires. This doesn't mean how much the steering angle is actually steered. There's like a little bit of a gear ratio between those. So probably delta steering wheel is around 10 times that. So maybe it'll actually feel like 25 degrees at your hands, but the tire itself at the ground is turned 2.52 degrees to the right. So we'll just fill this one in. 0.044 radians, or 2.52 degrees. Okay. So that's it for today. I wanted to look at this performance sheet, see if we could get a little bit of extra information out of it by making a couple assumptions. And this is kind of fun because you can do this with any car that they've run this test for. So they have like libraries of vehicles that they've done these tests with. So it's kind of fun to look at different cars, like whether it's front engine, rear engine, different kinds of stuff. There we go. There we go. We've dissected this sheet. And this week we'll keep chugging away at this stuff. And then next week, what is the value of alpha F and alpha R in the workspace? Let me give you that. But I think next week we're going to start getting into load transfer and oh wait, did I not change these things? Uh-oh. Hold on a second here. We're going to get some different answers for beta and delta. Oh, you're right, Jimolino. Thank you. Beta is now negative. Oh, good grief. Okay, hold on a second here. What is beta in degrees? Let's also get that steer angle. 4.5. That makes a big difference. I'm really glad you pointed that out. So this should be... And that means the car's nose in. Minus 0.055 radians, or minus 3.15 degrees. Yeah, that means the M4 was turning right on the skid pad, and its nose was pointed into the circle slightly. Yep. And then the steer angle zero point zero 0.079 radians, 4.52 degrees. Some more steering as well. Thank you very much. UB Math Prof asks, have you set up a Discord for your class? Yep, we did set up a Discord. Are you thinking about doing one for your class? Thank you guys a lot. Oh, right. Everything's going to online next week. Wait, isn't week after next? Hey, have a good one, MCAT. It's after Thanksgiving, right? I thought we still had a little time. I guess it won't affect us at all. Yeah. Abhinav says, is the homework gonna take time? Big questions. I think it's... Abhinav, I think the questions look kind of big or whatever, but I don't think it'll take tons of time. Hey, Jenna. See you later. Good to see you as always. Oh, I see. You want them to be familiar before the week we break. Yeah. I can show you. Let's see. Wait, you can upside down the doggies? This is our Discord. As you can see, we have some pretty sweet pictures going here. But yeah, I made a couple channels. Like we have like a questions channel. We have student discussion channel, and then when I do office hours, I just join a voice channel. And I made one for me and one for our TA, Suvik. I don't know, do you guys like the Discord office hours? I mean, we could also do office hours on Twitch, but then it's a little less one-on-one. No, I feel like it's going pretty well. It's pretty convenient. Yeah, I think so too. Screen sharing. Oh yeah, you can screen share. No, I agree with you. Yeah, this is... I've been happy with it. Oh my goodness. I didn't eat breakfast this morning. I don't know what I was thinking. UB Math Prof, I did Discord office hours over the summer, but I switched to Twitch office hours this semester. I think I'm gonna go back. Yeah. I guess there's... Yeah. There's pros and cons. Gotta eat breakfast. Yeah, I think Discord's better. Oh yeah, Hash Brown Swag saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Oh man, you're making me extra hungry. Extra hungry. Oh shoot, and then I have a meeting right now, and then I can't even eat until after that meeting. Oh jeez Louise. Game over. We need a reset on this day. All right, my friends. It is always a pleasure hanging out with you Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. It is really a privilege. Hank, you gotta eat. All of you, if you haven't eaten breakfast yet, you gotta eat. What are you doing? What am I doing? All right, have a great rest of your Monday.